New York ain't New York. There's non-New Yorkers here. You're like, oh, I live in New York. No, yeah, you might live here, but you're not from here, so you don't get it. A lot of these people just don't get it. They're not true New Yorkers. You can tell by the way they walk, by the way they talk, the way they dress, the color of their skin, no matter what color you are. You can just tell you're not from here, So get out. Her name was Lily Caggiano, and she lived right next door to me also. And I used to see her in the street, and I would run up to her and carry her groceries, So one day I see her, and I say, hey, Lily, how you doing? She said, how are you? I said, where you going, Lily? She says, I'm going to church, and I'm going to light a candle for you. I'm not even fucking dead, and they're lighting candles for me. You know why? Respect. Because they never forgot that I carried those groceries up for them out of respect. And that's how it comes back,
Yeah.
And I need that candle, by the way. I can use all the candles I could get.
Yeah, so it was your family on every floor,
yes,
every
just
apartment, and you're growing up. And at this time, what years was it at this time?
Well, we're talking mid-'60s,
How was the neighborhood like? Was the neighborhood...
That's when I was a kid playing in the building, like kind of like 10 years old, 12, whatever, something like that.
So mid-'60s?
Yes.
So at that time period, what was the neighborhood like? What was the LES like? What was Chinatown like?
Chinatown was very Chinese. Little Italy was very Italian. The Lower East Side was very Puerto Rico. And then later on, the Dominicans moved in, and they had a little beef with the Puerto Ricans. The Chinatown Italian people never beefed. My wife's Chinese, there was never a beef. I studied Kung Fu with Fu Jiao Pai. I received the culture I grew up with the culture. You know what I mean? So when I see like pork fried rice for $16 a time, $16? You crazy? It was $3.
Yeah.
Well, you know what it is? I grew up here.
Yeah.
So believe me, coming down this way, more away from Little Italy, you got more like abandoned, burnt down buildings. And it was a ghetto.
Well, so was it like that in the 60s already?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah.
Because I know it was like early 90s, late 90s.
Oh, forget it. It was a mess down here.
Yeah.
Before they really started the cameras and the, stuff like that, documenting,
Yeah.
Because back then, who had a fucking camera,
Yeah.
And but I grew up in this environment, so I didn't fear it as much as like an outsider. Now, if I go to Baltimore, for instance, I'm running around some neighborhood, I'm checking myself because this is not my neighborhood. You know what I mean? Now, when I hung out in the Lower East Side in the neighborhood, when I seen a kid from my neighborhood, Little Italy, in the neighborhood, yo. Whoever they were, I yelled at them, yo, what's up? What are you doing here? I know what they're doing. They're there to get drugs. Get the fuck out of this neighborhood. I hung out there because I was a punk rocker, and that's where we hung out,
Yeah.
Sure, there were people that did drugs and everything, but I wasn't that. I was not a drug guy, Just later on in life, I became an alcoholic,
Mm-hmm.
But nah, I smoke cigars, I drink wine now.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
I like dinners, friends, I always was that way anyway. Even back in the day when a lot of bands would stay in my house because I was the only one with an apartment in New York City, with a shower and everything. So a lot of the bands would stay in my house and my aunts and my grandmother who lived right next door to me, they'd hear me in the apartment with like 100 people in there, and they would come knock on the door, open the door, and they got a big bowl of pasta for everybody to eat. And my aunts always used to tell me, don't wash the dish. I'll wash. Just give me the dish back. Because they were afraid I might chip it.
Mm.
The Copa de Monde hand-painted macaroni dish, the old dish. The dishes were like 150 years old. Don't chip the dish,
Yeah.
It was cool. I remember things like that my aunts would tell me. And I would run out of ice and say, what's the matter? You don't make ice? Yeah, I got 100 people in there making drinks, my family covered me a lot, there was a lot of love and it was really cool. Like, I even downstairs, I was always interested in culinary and cooking. That even in my book, I got like recipes. You know, but we knew everybody.
Yeah.
This is before they put locks on front doors of the buildings.
Wow.
You know, there was never a lock, you know, until the 70s. And then the locks, like mid to, you know, late 70s.
Yeah.
You know, all the buildings started putting locks. And that kind of sucks because I used to walk in at, you know, all the 7 yards I used to hang out in. And then, you know, there was a pigeon coops all over the place. I still got a pigeon coop down over here. My friend Vinnie, some Dominican kid. He's a great pigeon guy. He entered me a couple of years ago. We entered the race. There was Mike Tyson in the race. Few famous pigeon guys. Paulie Mendel, famous pigeon guys. And he took my. I went in with a pigeon with him. My racing pigeon, Rocky. And now today they got little things they put on their thing, you know, so, you know, you don't have to wait by the window and put the clock, you know, it's a different, now, once the pigeon, boom, you know what I mean? Well, you know, I'm one among many now. We're overrun, but you know, New York is, you know, it is what it is, you know, they make the rent go up, you know, the housing go up and, you know, I mean, I don't know anybody in my building. I'm like one of the only remaining ones, you know, a true New Yorker, a true family in this building, you know.
You don't know anyone in your building anymore. It's just because they're moving in and out all the time,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like you don't have time to form a
no
relationship with
more.
them.
I don't. I don't care no more. I'm done with these people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The hell with them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'll never hear them. You'll never see them again. You know, like, well, why am I bothering? You know?
Yeah.
I was always nice, whatever. Try to like. There was one girl, and she wound up marrying a friend of mine, and in California. And when she moved in, I just came from the Palos, and I had a lot of andibas. I had some cheese, some this, some breads, you know. So I made her a little dish when she moved in, and I, you know, just to be nice. And then she found out it was me, and I was friends with her, like the guy she got married to, like later on. So it was good karma, you know.
Yeah. Seeing as everything's changed, you know what I mean? The neighborhood's changed, the people in your building have changed. Do you still feel at home?
Sometimes no, sometimes yes. You know, I look, you know, like for instance, I'll send you these pictures. My friend used to put up a Christmas display on the fire escapes. You know how they used to do it,
Yeah.
right? One year, somebody complained. Now he can't do it no more. I say, fuck it. Don't put the fucking. He's been doing it for years. He's doing it. And he always used to light it up on my birthday, December 3rd. And I'll never forget that. As a matter of fact, one year I forgot all about it. I walked out. I saw, Gary, my friend, he lit it up on my birthday. Or I'd be like, it'll be like September, October. He'll be on the fire escapes. And I hear, yo, Vinnie. I know just where to look. And I know, he said, I'm working on it, you know? And he lighted up on my birthday every year. And I grew up with him, you know? He's one of my original friends.
Yeah.
One of the Mott Street boys.
Yeah.
That was my gang, you know?